Hey, welcome. This is Steve Webster with another AI automation with no-code and low-code solutions. First, in our video highlights today, a 60-second sneak peek demo. Let's watch it. So we have our YouTube and our channel. Now we want to drive even more traffic by posting social media content that clicks back to the video because the video has the call to action to learn more or buy something, right? All right, so to do that, we have to select type of social media, pick these three. Then we just click automate. A make.com process is running in the background. We should see populations here, and then here, and then here. We got success here, and now success with Facebook. So what does it look like? We click this, boom. Created all that from the transcript from the YouTube video. It got the thumbnail from the YouTube video here as well. Let's go ahead and check the other content. How about X? So anyhow, it does that. And then Facebook page. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed the sneak peek. So we're going to talk about YouTube SEO, how to automate social media. The demo is going to include components like Google Sheets, some low code and no code using make.com. If you're interested to create a micro business, you can get the system. I'll show you how. If you're a business already, hopefully you can double your leads much easier. Let's get into it. I'm so glad you can make today's video. We're going to talk about YouTube SEO. So we need to back up just a little bit. So normally back a decade or two, whatever, it's always been google.com and having SEO content that drives traffic to your website or to your blog. Fairly recently, as in maybe a year, I've been seeing people pivoting from that focus to the second largest website in the world, and that is YouTube. Some people refer to this as YouTube SEO. So what are some of the benefits of doing this? Well, people get to know you, regardless if they see your face or a representative of your company, or maybe it's even faceless. You start building confidence and trust, and eventually they'll contact you with a decision to engage in your service or purchase. So what you want to do is create your videos, but in your videos, you want to have a call to action. Tell them go to your description and click on to learn more, purchase, join something, whatever the call to action is. Now, YouTube does have an algorithm to help to promote your videos, but we can supplement that by going to social media with links back to the video, because that's the sales funnel. After you do the manual effort, we go to step 2, and I'm going to show you how to automate that process. We're going to use a Google spreadsheet, a few clicks. It's going to call make.com's, which is a no-code platform. It's going to take what you uploaded, which is the transcript, into a Google Doc, leverage AI, create posts applicable to these social media platforms, grab a YouTube thumbnail, and then when it makes these posts, you have the content, some hashtags, and the most important thing, the link back to your video where that sales funnel exists. And if you stay to the end, I will show you how you can actually get some of these assets so you can start using. Now, where does the income come from? How do you make money from this? Well, you can actually take this spreadsheet, make.com, what's called the exported blueprint. I've got a little low code attached to the Google spreadsheet. And you can reach out to your circle of friends or business associates and see if they have a YouTube channel. Or if not, maybe you can explain to them why it's important to do so and offer them your service, driving more traffic to their video. And that's what we're going to demonstrate step by step. Now, number 3 here, I'm thinking of a part 2 in this series. What a lot of people do, they recommend, well, why don't you create some shorter videos for the longer video? In this case, YouTube Shorts, which has the purpose of, just like the social media, to drive to the main video where the call to action is. So this part 3 is more complex. I'm not even sure if I can pull it off, but we're going to try. It's kind of like maybe taking that thumbnail, overlay of text with voice, and do it automatically. So if this interests you, then let's get to pieces that make up the system. So in this use case, we want to manage the process. So why not use something like a Google spreadsheet? So what we want to do is take a YouTube video, log it in our spreadsheet. Then we want to use social media to drive more traffic to there. So what makes up the system? Well, we've got some low code and AppScript here, which I already have a tab for. So here's the low code, that's it. And then from the spreadsheet, it also invokes and communicates with no code behind the scenes, and that's called make.com. And this is called a scenario. So that's what that looks like. And of course, we need YouTube to draw traffic to, because we want to treat YouTube as a sales funnel. So one of the things we need from here is a transcript, which you can get here. You click that, populates here. Now on the internet, there are different ways of getting this perhaps automatically, but it's not that great yet. There are some limitations with make.com, or not, I should say make.com, but the video limit size is only like 25 megabytes. There's a workaround for that, but it's more steps, some more complexity. There's an API approach where you can scrape it. So in this case, let's just keep it easy. Let's just say we just want to go all the way up here like this and include the time. You right click, say copy. Then you go to a Google document. So I don't think I have my Google document open at the moment. So then you open up a Google document, you right click, click paste, and that's it. You give it a name, I don't know, YouTube SEO, and maybe today's date. Then you want to grab that URL here, go back to the spreadsheet, and put it here. So I already have done that. So I think this one I called it YouTube transcript, and I put the ID in there. And then all you do is at this point, then you need the ID. The YouTube ID is up here. It's this section here, not including the ampersand. Now, if that becomes a problem, I did create a little tool. So let's demonstrate that. So this is where we need to put in the ID for at least when we do the automation. So if you noticed, let me hide some of these columns over to a little tool I have for you. So let's hide this. Yes. So we want the ID of the YouTube video here, and we're going to need it here as well. But right here, all you have to do is come here, grab the entire URL, and then there's an automation here. As soon as you put in a valid YouTube URL, it should populate this for us, and it does. And of course, I just said we need it here too. So that makes it a little easier for you. And then to run this, let's see, I think we got everything else. Let's say we're going to be in progress. And I mentioned, let me uncheck these. In the beginning, it kind of looks like this. There's nothing here. By the way, if you click this edit, you can list whatever social media platforms you want. I got a little creative here with the syntax, so it kind of looks pretty cool. Kind of look like icons. So let's say we want to do 3. You don't have to do one at a time per row. I wanted to challenge myself to say, hey, how can we do this in one row? And what the expectation is that once we click here and select automate, it will call this make.com scenario, perform the so-called magic, and then it'll come back and populate the LinkedIn URL that, in other words, it will create the post for LinkedIn automatically. And here's the URL that we'll put in here, as well as X, as well as a Facebook page for my demonstration for today. And once it does that, it will change in progress to published and update the date. So let's go ahead and run this before we get into more of the details. So we'll click automate. So we should see it populate here and here and here. It takes a little bit longer for Facebook. It's already put the posted date here and changed this to publish. So we're done. So let's see the results. How well did it do? Well, I say it looks pretty good. So it got the transcript information and created this for us, including there's a method to grab your thumbnail from that YouTube video. How easy is that? So now let's take a look at the x.com. Again, looks pretty good. And let's take a look at the Facebook page that I have. And it looks good as well. And what's important, again, with this YouTube SEO strategy, you have social media that supplements the YouTube video, and there's a call to action to go to the description to learn more, buy something, or whatever your call to action is. That's the sales funnel. So we're helping that out. So that's why we need the link to the video. So if we click that, it goes to the. Now, since this is a Facebook page, you can go to see the list of posts on the page by clicking that, of course. And there it is, just 1 minute ago. Okay, by going back here, now what we want to do is to explain some of the details. Now, before we do that, I just recalled there is a status I put here as well. And if I unhide these columns, you will see that the process did something else, which is an advanced piece to this. So here, I asked it to, okay, immediately create your LinkedIn posts, your x.com posts, and your Facebook page posts. Do that immediately. Start getting that traffic, more traffic to your YouTube video, helps the YouTube algorithm to do its job. But then I came up with this advanced idea, and that is give me 4 scenes that are compelling, wow, or something to that regard. Then you leverage AI to create like a title, a little snippet of information. And then I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I could have a start and end time with a clip? And then also the full video. So this is what it's doing here. I put in the duration here, and here, and here, and here. And these are 4 separate ones. However, I do not want it to do it immediately. I want to spread out the love, right? So all I have to do it every 24 hours, starting tomorrow, the next day, the next day, the next day, because there's 4 more scenes, you just click schedule. And then when you do that, it will then go ahead and schedule those other posts. I'll demonstrate that later. Okay, let's go into the supplemental low code, and this is called AppScript. And I already have it open here. So I've collapsed these functions. So basically, on edit, all that means is, if I go back to the spreadsheet, it's looking in column F, and if it sees automate, then it's going to say, I'm going to trigger an event. Let's go back to the script. And then this starts the workflow of low code. And all it is doing is sending information to this scenario in make.com, and it's called a webhook. It's going to have a payload of some data that is used to perform the magic you just saw. Let's take a look of what the payload is that it's coming here. Let's go back to the AppScript. Let's see, which one was this? That's for something else. Here we go. Oh, here it is, send to a webhook. And here's the payload right here. Here's the payload right here. So it's sending the row number. So it wants to know what row are we talking about? We're talking about row 3. What is the type? Well, the type is this column here. It wants a list of everything that's in here. So in this case, I put 3. So that list will be going there as well. It needs the YouTube video ID. And of course, we mentioned that earlier, where that's available in this column for this row. Next, the doc content, which is the transcript from the YouTube video. The scene number is used in a different call to action, which is what I was referring to over here. So that's a separate on-edit event that fires, but we're not going to get there just yet. All right, why don't we go right into the make.com and explain that a little bit. So we explained that it's kind of wise to have a system that you can use in this case, right? So having a spreadsheet to manage this, I think, is ideal. So in this case, by you updating your video ID and you selecting the word automate from the dropdown, it's going to come here. And then, of course, when it's done, it's going to populate these columns with those links so you can review them. In fact, if there's something there you don't like, you could always edit your post. So I'm skipping the workflow of, hey, before publishing, I want to review and then either manually post it or give me some more automation to post it from there. In this use case, it's just posting it. I believe it looks good, and you can always edit it later. Let's go back to the make.com. So the make.com again is no code. It means just that there's no code here, but you do have all these modules. These are called modules, and there are other utility things like routers. Make.com does have documentation to help you get caught up to speed if you want to know how all this stuff works. Now, as I mentioned previously, I'm making this scenario available. I'll mention the details of how to get that at the end of near the end of the video. But basically, what I'm going to do is say export blueprint, and then once you get the make.com scenario, you would come in here and say import that blueprint, and then all the work is done for you. So that is why I'm not going to recreate what I've already done, because you can go get this yourself. Okay, let's explain this a little bit. So after you click automate up there, it kicks this off. And what is this? Well, this is a special URL to grab the thumbnail from that video. What we need is a YouTube ID. Well, that could change. And that's why the webhook is going to contain the YouTube ID. And this magically gets the thumbnail. Pretty cool. So in this router, it's going to route in different paths. There are conditions in the router. In this case, I'm calling this a label LinkedIn. The condition is type, which is again passed in here. Let's go back to here. So when that type I'm selecting, it contains a value. In this case, I don't care if it's uppercase or lowercase. So I select that, and then it contains IN. Why IN? Well, if you go back to the spreadsheet, it's IN here. And the same is true for the other routings. Does it contain X and F? Okay, let's go back to the scenario. So that's how that works. So if you see for Facebook, same sort of thing, it's got the F there. For this one, for X, it has the word X or the letter X here. And then this doesn't have a condition because I'll explain that at just in a moment later here. I'll explain. Okay, so let's go back up to the first flow. So here we're leveraging ChatGPT. The model I've chose at this moment in time, as of September 13th, 2024, the current 4.0 system is using this one from May. However, soon they're going to be promoting it to this level. And it's 50% cheaper when you send the inputs and 33% cheaper when they send it back to you. So that's why I selected this. If you want to save even more money, you could use the mini, like this one. But for now, I'm just using this version to save 50%. Next, I clicked on added message. Then you have different roles. I picked system. Then down here, I picked user. An assistant is where you do a model yourself on the OpenAI system to do some of the prompting there. But we're not going to go into that in this case. So for the system role, I'm just simply telling it you are a social media LinkedIn expert because this is the LinkedIn path. For the role, I have a prompt. And again, you can get this prompt when you join our community where you can get this information. So this is the task. I gave it specific instructions, especially you need to include the YouTube video. And again, that's coming from the webhook. I asked for some major key points, and I decided to put in some hard-coded hashtags here. It is possible for you to ask the OpenAI ChatGPT to create its own hashtags, but for this demonstration, I put them in myself. Down here, we got tokens. One token is somewhere between 4 to 5 characters as a rule of thumb. I think 1,000 is enough here. The temperature, you have a value between basically 0 and 1. 1 meaning you're giving permission to ChatGPT to be as creative as it wants. Sometimes that brings on hallucination. So to eliminate or reduce that risk, have a lower temperature where it's more a matter of a fact. So some people put 0.3, 0.4. I went ahead and put 2 there. And you can just leave all this the same. So now that it's built that, the output from this becomes the input for LinkedIn module. As far as connecting these, we can help you with that once you join our community with those details. But for now, what we want to do is give a picture in the LinkedIn post, and that is our thumbnail. So if you recall over here is where we're grabbing our thumbnail. So we're saying get a file. If you choose map, it kind of says, okay, what's the file name and data, but it doesn't matter. So it does that for us. Then do you want to have alternate text before that image? So I put that. And then what is the content of the post? Well, ChatGPT just did that for us. So all we have to do here is click, in this case, you can go here, choices, this is the message, and this is the content. Or you also have it up here at the results. I went this route. So I want it to be public, and I want it to go in the main feed. And then that's it for that. Now, once it creates the post, you would say, well, the work is done, but we don't know the link to that. So we need to know that. We need to update Google Sheets again. So if we click on Google Sheets, it takes me through the process of search by path. I want it in my drive. Then I can click here and it'll give me a choice of what the name of the spreadsheet is so it can get the spreadsheet ID. And then it'll ask me, okay, I've seen the spreadsheet. I know it has certain sheet tabs in it. Which one? It's this one. What row number? Well, that's coming from the webhook earlier. Does the sheet tab have headers? Sure does. Now, what values do you want to update? So I picked, this is the Google Sheets update row method. So that's why it contains all these cells. Well, in the status column, I want to change it from automate to published. I want to put in the post date field, the published date, and I want to put in the LinkedIn URL. And the post ID is coming from the output from LinkedIn here. That's where that comes from. And then in the notes field, I'm going ahead and saying success for LinkedIn. This will be overwritten as other successes are reported. And that's it for that. Now you may be asking, what are these orange pause looking things? Well, as a good practice, if there is an error, trap that error and then retry again later. So in this case, it's going to wait 15 minutes and then try again up to 3 times to see if that works. So why have that? Well, a lot of these API related things, they may have things like a rate limit. If you're going too fast, it won't allow you to do that. It's like a quota limitation. So to solve that, you just pause and wait. So this is good practice. So we have basically the same thing for Facebook. I won't go through all the details again. I chose the same model. Okay, and this time you are a Facebook group expert. Very similar here. Very similar, same tokens, temperature still 2. And then for the output from the ChatGPT becomes the input for Facebook. Here I chose I want to upload a photo. It's the thumbnail. That's the caption of it. And from the output of ChatGPT, I went over here and I selected the result in this case. And that's it for that one. And then same thing, we want to update Google Sheets. In this case, we want to put it in the correct column, which is this column here with post ID that we got from the output of Facebook. And we have our catch, error, and retry break events. Now, from trial and error, X.com, or formerly Twitter, not as easy as first tried. So I took the extra time to put in some other considerations. So in this case, I do want to have the Twitter or X.com, same sort of thing, but I had to make some changes here. Here I said as a system, I said you are a social media X.com or Twitter expert who can concise character. You are a social media expert for Twitter, but I'm saying I want you under the 280 character limit. Now, that sometimes becomes a problem because even though you give these instructions for AI, in this case ChatGPT, it can go over what you just asked because it's dealing with tokens, not necessarily words. So it does its best. Anyhow, so in this case, I said, well, okay, let's tell you 200 to give me a buffer if you go over towards the 280. Now, it's 280 because the free tier of X.com allows you to do 280 characters in a post. If you are a paid member, I believe it's 4,000, but let's go with the free limitation here. So it looks almost the same except for those couple differences here. And then, so that's then from the output, we want to upload a picture. So here, if you notice, to upload a picture, the current version of X with Meg.com is version 6. This is version 5. You have to use 5 to push the media thumbnail up there first. So all this is doing is pushing the thumbnail up there. And then we can now post it. It wants to know the output from the call to push up the media, and we get that from here. Then we can go in, and then that's all it does. And then for this part, you give it the result from the original ChatGPT here. And then the output from the upload of the image is this. And that's all there is there. Then we update the spreadsheet in the proper column with success. And then we have a break. So what is this? How come I don't have a break here? Well, instead of breaking and waiting 15 minutes and trying 3 times, what if the error is because it went over the 280 character limit? Well, then, in this case, I want to try again and assume, even though I gave it instructions, I'm going to further limit it with another try using ChatGPT. This time I'm saying only 180 characters. And down here, I even said, make it 40 less words after all that. And then it does the exact same thing. It retries with the same type of code here, or choices here and updates the spreadsheet. And then these have the breaks up here. All right, so what is this down here? Well, if you recall, we move over here. The last section of make.com is creating and putting this up here. So let's go through what this does. I want to slow down a little bit for this piece. Here I'm saying you are a marketing social media expert. Let's scroll down here a little bit. I will provide you a YouTube video transcript. It will contain a video time for a portion of context. Steps. Number 1. From the entire transcript, find 4 sections that are compelling or interesting or intriguing or good to know or wow moments from the video transcript. Let me separate these out so it's a little easier to see. Okay, for number 2, for each of the 4 sections, where we will refer to these sections as scenes, get the start time, end time, calculate the time duration between the start time and the end time, and from each section, generate a catchy or inspiring or wow brief title. Now, if you recall, the transcript, the way we did it, contains the times of each of the transcript. So I'm classifying these as start and end times from what it thinks is compelling. Let's continue. Put the results in this example array with this JSON structure. So don't worry about what this structure looks like right now at the moment. But one of the things that I had to figure out was, well, what is the fancy URL that you can do start and end times? Well, it's this. But if you notice, it has embed. So the behavior is a little different. When they click on it, it'll be the entire screen. But it works. And then it does that for 4 scenes worth. And then I say, here is the video transcript down here, and it does its job. Now from that, again, I pick the same model. You are a social media expert, and I have these instructions. For each item in this array from this output here, right, loop through each one to create a social media post by appending the following JSON key values into the social media content post by appending in the following method. So I give it the structure that I want so it shows up like this, which is pretty cool. Okay, let's go back. So that's basically that job. And then once that is done, we want to upload that to our Google spreadsheet in the applicable column, which is the results from here, right? So that's what that is. Okay, now let's go back to our spreadsheet. Now let's talk about the advanced features that I put in. This is part of it, putting this up here to prep with the strategy again. 24 hours later, I want it, let me open this up again. 24 hours later, I want to post to LinkedIn, in this case, x.com, and my Facebook page, this. I want that to go 24 hours later. Then another 24 hours later, I want this to be done. And then another 24 hours, I want this to be done. And then another 24 hours passes, I want this one and this one. So to accomplish that, all you have to do is click schedule. Now, when that happens, Let's go back to our low-code AppScript. Let's shrink this down. Let's go back up to the edit. Okay, so here, we've already talked about this one. When you click automate, it does what we just talked about. For this, it's checking the column schedule for more scenes, and if it's schedule, then go ahead and run this function. So let's do a Control F to find where that is, which is right here. Let's expand that. It does some low code stuff. And then, so within this function, we want to queue the scenes. And to do that, we want to grab all this, split each of those 4 into its pieces, and then we want to store, and kind of like a memory thing, but it's called, in Google AppScript, it's called the property service. So at the document level, for each scene, I'm creating a property called scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, and scene 4. So that's just kind of like in the memory in this particular Google Sheets document. And that's actually being stored after doing this process here and then setting it here. And that comes into play when it's time to schedule it, which we're going to get into right now. So here we have create time trigger. Let's do Control F, click down, and we see it's actually right here. Let's expand this. So here we're saying create a new trigger, and when it runs, when it's time to run after some sort of time delay, call this function down here. Now for my demo today, I'm waiting just 1 minute for the demonstration. But for production, here, I want it to do 24 hours later. So after a minute, it's going to call this. It's going to that temporary storage called property service. And from that storage, we're going to get the video ID, the type, which contains the IN for LinkedIn and so forth, which row. It's going to get all the properties. It's going to get all those scene keys that have scene_1, scene_2. If there are no scenes left, that means everything's been processed. We'll skip over that for now. So it's taking the first one out of the 4. Now, it may not necessarily be in the order that we had it, but it's going to process all of them regardless. So now we have the scene to process. The console log gives us a log if we want to check the logs, of course. We want to get the remaining scenes left. So after it took, once it's taking this one, it's going to say which ones are left and how many they are. I need to know what is the iteration. Is this the first one, second one, third one, or fourth one? There's a little calculation with that. I'm logging what that iteration is. Then it's time to send to the webhook function. It's actually the same webhook function before, but it is actually a different ID or URL in this case, which I need to show you now in make.com. But just before we do that, it deletes the key from that storage and memory to tidy things up. It checks to see if it's now 0 to delete the time trigger. Now, before we go to make.com, I just thought of something else. Over here in this AppScript editor, there's something called triggers. When the trigger is created automatically, there'll be another line here that will process with the time trigger. So I'll get back to that when we actually run it. So let's go to make.com, get away from the code of low-code AppScript. Now, this is the scenario we were talking about, but we're going to call a different scenario. So over here, I have a list of scenarios. This one's called YouTube Scene to Social Media Webhook. So I'll click on that. I can see some history here. Click once. It takes me into this new scenario. So this is similar, but still slightly different because at this point, we are sending the exact content that we need. We don't need ChatGPT to tell us what the post looks like. That was already done in the last scenario. So in other words, if I go back up here, I want it to take the information I'm passing it. So I'm passing that to the webhook as well as each one of them. Let's go back to make.com. We still want to use the thumbnail for that video, which is okay because I want people to say, hey, oh, I remember seeing this before, but I didn't click on it. But now they get to see it again. Okay, now let's go back over here. Now I just said we don't need ChatGPT again. Well, I ran into some anomalies with LinkedIn. You see down here, I just fed it the Facebook. I just fed the content of what we just saw in the spreadsheet to here, and it worked fine. And it works fine just feeding that into the x.com. But if for whatever reason, when I had, I think it was parentheses, the minute, a colon, the second, and parentheses. In fact, to show you that, this portion right here, LinkedIn didn't like it. So let's go back to make.com. And I wasn't sure what else was going on. So now I'm saying, even though I think what I gave you was good enough to post, when it did post it to LinkedIn, it truncated most of everything up to that point. So here I'm just giving it some more instructions of what to do and how to remove that. So again, this is just a prompt that will take care of that. It'll create its output. And then that output goes into LinkedIn, the modified version of what we just saw. It posts it to LinkedIn. And now this is where we usually want to update the Google Sheet. But then I got thinking, if I think about the sheet, what I did last time when I initially ran this, I had a column for each of these options here, right? So I thought, if I'm going to do 4 scenes, that's a lot of columns. So this is what I'm going to do instead. For scene 1, I'm actually going to list the publish date, a return, go to the next line. Here's the LinkedIn URL, the x.com URL, and the Facebook page URL, all in one cell. And then 24 hours later, it's going to do the same thing for these things. Let's go back to make.com. So to do that, we need to compile that. So I'm not ready to send that. But what I do want to do, I want to save the results of this. So this is known as a variable. I gave it a specific name, which I need to use later. And I'm telling it what that value is. I want that LinkedIn URL so I can review it later. So again, if I click here, I'm using the post ID, which is from the previous, which is this one. So now I'm saving that for later, so I can compile it all in one shot. Okay, now let's go down here. This works nicely. I just give it the same thumbnail, and I just simply say, take the doc content from the webhook. That easy. And again, I want to save with this URL name, that nice link. And again, just like all the other filters, it's the same process as the last time. I need to upload the image, which is getting from here. Then I want to post using the content that I just gave it. Yes, it still needs a media ID, which is the output from the upload here. And I want to save a variable name X URL with that nice link so I can review it later. Okay, now it's time to put that all together and update the Google spreadsheet. Now, scene 1 is done first. 24 hours later, there'll be scene 2, which goes in a different column. 24 hours later, scene 3 will be done. It goes into a different column, and same thing with the 4th one. So I get all the variables in one go here. So I say get all variables, and I have to tell it those exact variable names. Now that I have that in the flow here, I can now use that in scene 1. Let's take a look at the filter here that goes up here. I'm calling it scene 1, the scene number. If it is equal to number 1, the first iteration, then I know this needs to go into a certain column of scene 1. And I want to do it in a format where it looks kind of decent. So it's going to have scene 1, publish date, and then these URLs. And then day 2 or day 3, depending on how you want to look at it, I have this where it says scene 2 and it goes into the scene 2 column. And the same thing for all this. So again, we're talking about scene 1 column, 2, 3, 4 in a nice concise way. So let's go ahead and run that. So I have this information. All I need to do is click schedule. Now, instead of waiting 24 hours, I told it to wait 1 minute. Let's go back into the AppScript. Remember the trigger thing? Let's go ahead and click that now. See how it has the time-based thing here? It's running at 1 minute later from what I said. And then when it's processed, it deletes it. It tidies itself up. And then a minute later, instead of 24 hours, we'll do it again. So if we go back to our spreadsheet, pretty soon we should see scene 1 pop in this column in row number 3. Okay, we actually have all 4 finished now. These are all the scenes. It says scenes have been published. Scroll that over a little bit like that. So now if we open this up, you can see what it looks like. that has the LinkedIn URL, the x.com, the Facebook page, and we pretended 24 hours again went by, so it looks like that, scene 2. And let me scroll over here a little bit so we can see that better. Yep, looks good. Looks good. If we go to LinkedIn, refresh, we see that result and the other ones. And if we click on the clip, it enlarges the whole thing because it's in this embed mode. It goes right to that clip, which is great. And then if we want them to go, or if they want to see the full clip, I've already started this video, so it's somewhere else right now. So normally we'll start at the beginning, but whatever. Okay, so you get the picture. So that's good. So with X, if we refresh, should have 4 scenes worth here. And that looks pretty good too. Okay, very good. So we go to Facebook, refresh, should have 4 of these. Looks good, 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 good. Okay, good. So, well, that completes the demo and the how-tos. Prompts aren't always perfect, so we'll be tweaking that some more to get it better. And thanks for watching this part of the demo. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Well, number 5 and 6 is regarding either starting a business or you are already a business. So let's talk about how to get the system. In the YouTube description below, I have a school community link. You go there, and that's where you retrieve it. The community is nice. We can support you. And amongst ourselves as members, we can help out each other. Plus, every week we have a webinar and or Ask Me Anything type of situation there. Now, as far as if you want to start a business, I would get this system. If you don't have make.com or the software I'm using to record this, those links are in the description as well. They are affiliates, so I would appreciate that. In fact, you too could become an affiliate and then offer that to your clients for another set of revenue. Now, as far as how much do you sell it for, I would not go by hour. What I would do is a value proposition. And I'll let you decide, is that a few hundred or a couple $1,000s? That's for you to decide. And to start, I would start for free, right? Get 1 or 2, 3 people, go through this routine, get their feedback, get better at it, and maybe ask for some nice reviews. And then when you start your new client, then you're all set to go. Now, if you're already a business, I encourage you to get this system as well, because I want to find out if it truly does double your leads. I don't see why it can't. So by being a community member, you can let us know how it goes, and more feedback, the better. I just want to thank you for watching this. I hope it's helpful. Give me some comments, subscribe, click that like button, and I look forward to seeing you in the school community, and have a blessed day.